Welcome to my 2024 Blue Wave prediction. So let's start off with the safe states. And there we go. So as you can see already, the map is quite blue. For example, Minnesota safety, since it's the home state of Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz. During the times that he ran for governor, if we look back here, let's be quick with this. So back in the time that he ran for governor, 2022, he was able to win here by 7.7%, and before that, he was able to win here by 11.4%, outrunning a lot of the Democrats. And if that does happen again, and he's able to get Harris a lot of momentum in the state, this could mean a safety win for Democrats here. And now you got a similar story in the 2nd district of Nebraska. So if you remember in 2020, Biden was able to win here by a likely margin. And Tim Walz grew up in Nebraska and actually taught some time as a professor there, and that could actually be quite beneficial for Harris, and that could mean a big victory in this district for them. And another state, so let's go to Virginia. In this blue wave scenario with Roe v. Wade, and abortion is a big issue for voters. Unlike what most polls are saying about Virginia, many think in the polling industry that Virginia could actually be a toss-up, and I heavily disagree with that notion, to be honest. There's no big polling. You got Emerson, but there's no A tier apart from New York Times and Siena that says it could actually be within a 4-point margin, 4 or 5, but these are from July, so they're already outdated. And in the best case scenario for Harris, she would easily win this state by a safe margin. And it's a similar notion for Colorado and New Mexico, both that were around a safe margin for Biden. Just a few points to the left would mean safety victories for Harris here. And now for New Hampshire, a state from 2016 to 2020 had a huge swing to the left, 7.4 in 2020, compared to 2016's almost Trump victory there. If we repeat that notion yet again, that would mean a safety win for them. And similar notion in Alabama and in Maine. Sorry about that. That's it for the safe blue states in this scenario. And now for the likely R states. And if Trump is not able to gain momentum, the economy gets better, and he's not able to handle the campaign, Montana could drop down to a likely R state. It already went to Trump only by 16% in 2020. So if Team Sheehy does bad and John Tester is able to do quite well, maybe it could help Democrats a bit in this state. Kansas and Missouri kind of similar to Montana. It barely was a 15.4 victory for Trump. And if he underperforms, this would mean a likely R victory for him only there. And in Kansas, a state similar to Georgia from 2016 and New Hampshire in that way, it went from 20% to only 14%. And if Harris is able to replicate that fashion, and if her coalition is similar to Obama's, this could potentially, help her, especially more in the Rust Belt, but in the big cities too. That could mean a very low margin for Trump in Kansas. Mississippi, back to really the Obama reference. In 2008-2012, Obama was able to only lose here by 13, and then I'm not mistaken, 11.5%. And that could mean, if she's able to get really high turnout, similar to Brandon Presley, who ran in the governor race in 2023, perhaps, in her best case scenario, it drops down to likely R. And another southern state, for South Carolina, I could see it drop down to lean R, but it's a tough one to call. In 2020, went to Trump by 12%, 2016, 14%, and in a blue wave scenario, it could drop to a lean R state, I should say. It's just too difficult, and I think just need more time to see what happens in that state. And now to the Rust Belt, there's been some polling from CNN and other pollsters showing that Trump has been underperforming in the Rust Belt, and with his pick of J.D. Vance, who has really low approval ratings, this could really benefit the Democrats here. And I could see Iowa going only being a likely R state, still probably a 5-7 victory for him. And for the 1st District of Nebraska, due to the Tim Walz effect and his residency in Nebraska in his past, it could potentially help Democrats just narrowly pull this from a safe R district to a likely R district. And with Mike Pence not being on the ticket in 2024, we could see a drop-off from previous elections and see that the GOP goes down to a likely R fashion or / margin, and perhaps JD Vance could be hurting the ticket. And back to the poll about that from CNN that I posted in my community post, it showed that Trump was losing a significant amount of white working class voters to Harris, and if that's true, that could really be troublesome for him here in Ohio, with JD Vance being his pick. And in my opinion, he was one of the worst picks he could have chosen. We've seen the polls do show that Vance has, I don't know if they're going to show him 538, but I don't know, could take too much time. But if you see my community post, you can see that he has terrible numbers with independent voters, and this could actually drag down the Trump Vance ticket in Ohio and perhaps even make it a lean R state. But I'm gonna put this as a likely R victory for him right now. Vance has said a lot of statements, and with abortion being still, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues in 2024, that could really benefit Democrats and Harris in the blue wave scenario. And let me see, I think that's it for the likely R states, but let's go to the Democrats' likely R states for them. So Michigan, if the white working class voter problem is true, then that means that Harris would be able to win the state of Michigan in similar fashion to Obama back in 2012, and that would be a very nasty moment for Trump for sure. And now for Georgia, a state similar to New Hampshire that from 2016 to 2020 took a huge swing to the left. In my opinion, it is trending to the left, and if that does repeat yet again, that would mean a Harris victory here by a likely margin. Now let's go to Nevada, a state that Obama, like he spoke before, and even, he was at the DNC, of course. In 2012, he actually won here by 6.7%. I don't think Harris will be able to do as good, but in a blue wave scenario where the economy is better, inflation is really down low, and I'm guessing abortion will be #1 issue, and just Trump is not able to do good in debates, and basically his momentum is gone, this would mean a blue wave scenario in Nevada, and the Democrats would be able to win here by just a narrow likely D margin. Yep, there we go. That's it for the likely states. So as you can see already, this is a huge win, or about to be a huge win for Harris. And let's go to the lean D states. So this shouldn't be a surprise that Wisconsin and Pennsylvania would both go to Harris by an okay margin. It wouldn't be a huge margin like Obama 2008 to 2012, but it would be bigger than Biden 2020. And these two states would essentially grant Kamala Harris the presidency quite easily. And Arizona, let's go to them. So Arizona, a state that Trump is really one of the worst GOP candidates for. This could, even though Harris is more to the left of Biden, she is more welcoming to those McCain Republicans, or I should say McCain centrists, and those old school conservatives, and that could mean she could actually be able to do better than Biden in this state in 2024, and if all things go well for her. And the post DNC bump still there right now, and if that does continue, and if Trump is not able to come back, then this would be a lean D victory for her. And let's see, what should I do next? To the home base of Trumpism, the capital of Trumpism, for Florida. Florida, even in the best case scenario for Harris, it would still be a lean R victory for him. I think it would be worse than 2020. He would be able to still win here, but this would also mean Democrats down the ballot would be able to perhaps do a upset, aka, Rick Scott probably loses in this scenario. And this is why this would be a big thing for Democrats here. briefly, for the 2nd District of Maine, I could actually see this dropping to Tilt R, but this is just a Trumpy part of the United States, and it'd be hard for Democrats, even in this scenario, to flip this district. And lastly, for Alaska, a state that used to be safe R during the during the Obama presidency and in the 2008 election. Since then, it has slowly trended to the left, and if Trump isn't able to get those independent voters, then that could be a big issue, and this would mean Alaska would be really close. And lastly, for the last 2 states, we got North Carolina and Texas, and let's go to polling in North Carolina. So North Carolina, let's go right here. There we go. As if you have seen my post in my last video before this, I talked about the 2024 North Carolina governor race, which has Mark Robinson, in my opinion, one of the worst GOP candidates in this cycle, really doing poorly. And let me actually go to that race really quickly. So in the governor race, Mark Robinson is extremely down bad in the polls, losing by around I would say 10% on average, according to most pollsters. And if that is true, that would mean that he could potentially even drag down Donald Trump in the presidential level. And yeah, that would be terrible for Trump. And that could actually happen because how bad of a candidate he is. If Harris, with how much hype she has within Democrats, and if she has that similar fashion of a coalition to Obama, this would mean she would be able to narrowly win North Carolina in 2024. It'd be extremely close, but still she'd be able to flip this state just because how Republicans don't think this state will flip. And now for Texas, in 2020 it barely went to Trump by a likely margin and has dropped off by around 4%, or I should say 3.4% since 2016 to 2020. This would be really close for sure, and this is the jewel of the Republican Party, and if they lose this will mean chaos and just I don't know what would happen. But yeah, even in the worst case scenario for Republicans, and in the best case scenario for Harris, Walz, and the Democrats in 2024, I still see the GOP barely clinging on and winning the state by a narrow margin of less than 1%. So as you can see in my blue wave prediction, I have Kamala Harris winning here with 319 electoral votes, while Donald Trump only gets 219 electoral votes. Feel free to comment, share, and subscribe, and leave a like. It would mean a lot. And see you next time.